Today's First Alert afternoon weather update is brought to you by Lockhart Roofing.
Happy Wednesday afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Stone Schaefer here, live for our 2 p.m. First Alert weather live stream, joined by First Alert meteorologist Diane Phillips, here to just give you information. We have some wildfire smoke. We might have some rain, hopefully not.
Right.
We have some warming temperatures as well. Back to maybe some more summer-like, I'd say 70s, not so much, but still nicer than the 60s for many.
I'm a huge fan of the warmer weather, so for me this isn't really summer, but it's at least September weather, which we kind of like to see. It's been a fall outside easily. Do you kind of have those fall vibes already going mentally?
I would say last week was definitely fall-like, start of football. You have, obviously, at 60s. There were some areas of the far north that saw some snow. Luckily, we avoided that. But
yeah, that was in the UP. We had one of our managers, he was saying, he was like, did you see the snow in the UP? And I was like, I'd rather not. I'd rather not see the snow at this point.
Because I think it definitely upset some people around here who have been looking for some of those temperatures in the 80s, hopefully holding on just a little bit longer, especially at this time of year. But quickly, we're going to take a look outside here at our Holton Lake camera, where it's looking like a pretty nice day, maybe a little hazy there. Again, we do have some wildfire smoke that is rolling into the region. It's not much, it's not at the surface. Most of it is aloft. So impacts on our air quality isn't much. You do have some moderate air qualities. I think I saw Saginaw was in the 50s, so just barely on that point for wildfire smoke, but it's enough. I think you're definitely noticing it a lot.
It was right kind of at that moderate zone. So kind of that like 50 mark is where we see some of those changes coming in, and we were at about like 52, 53. So just kind of sliding into the moderate.
Just barely.
But thankfully, the smoke, nothing like what it was earlier in this season. So though we have it here, it's still pretty easy to get outside, and it's still pretty much enjoyable. I would like to see a little more sunshine here in Holton Lake. We've been seeing on some of our cameras some sun, some have been having the cloud cover. So it's just kind of the clouds from last night. We're having a hard time getting those to move out of mid-Michigan here. So we are hoping to at least be bringing us a little more sunshine through the day. So just be patient with a little bit of time. We will have it decrease. And I anticipate seeing a little bit better sunshine coming in for the evening. So we are going to continue to monitor, at least still some clouds hanging around. But hopefully, they're not bringing us any rain. I know we were kind of talking on radar. There is a little bit of green showing up there. So hopefully we can avoid some of that.
Yeah, and I did want to always try to look across the region, or even sometimes across the country. And right now we're going to take a look at Duluth, Minnesota, where they have a little bit more of that heavier wildfire smoke. So some light clouds there, but you definitely tell it's a little bit hazy. That's just an area that really, Duluth west into the Dakotas are those areas that have been seeing this wildfire smoke over at least the last week or so. Luckily, high pressure has sort of kept us pretty clear with that wildfire smoke. Hopefully that continues here as we get through the next couple of days.
Yeah, it just looks like we have kind of that filter overhead, so that is kind of where it gets, a little bit tricky, but we are going to find that thankfully that smoke isn't being too troublesome here for us, so appreciate that part of the forecast, but we will find that it still is going to be a little bit a little smoky outside, and especially for them further west, they are going to find that they have a few more chances for kind of seeing some of that thicker smoke to be coming in.
Yeah, and again, there is that chance over the next couple of days. I am going to take us back into Sky Tracker here in just a second. And what we see is there's just maybe some light rain out west that we'll just have to keep an eye on, see if it ends up reaching us. I think a good sign right now is it is struggling as soon as it gets to 131. So it continues that trend. It probably doesn't make our 127 counties. And then if you're noticing there is some light pickup out to the east, imagine most of that isn't even reaching the ground, just sort of high up in the atmosphere, moisture that is getting picked up by our radar.
Yes, especially because it does align with the cloud cover. So as those clouds are moving across, you start to see some of that rain coming through. So I anticipate, it's just the moisture that the radar is able to pick up in those clouds. I don't anticipate with how dry or how much dry air we have, I don't anticipate for that to be picking up on raindrops. Of course, our forecast is dry. I was talking about a dry forecast at noon on TV5. So I'm hoping to see those showers showers there along 131 kind of fade away and evaporate in that drier air, but we're keeping an eye to it. Thankfully, they're moving very slow, so that'll help as that dry air kind of comes through for it to eat away at those. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, we're
can
hoping.
Pan out
Yeah.
for us.
And then also, I always like to pull out the clouds here just because I think it gives a better look at what we're seeing on our pinpoint Doppler. And again, it is pretty similar. You just have these light returns out east, Tuscola, Sanilac, Lapeer County. Again, you can't imagine much that's reaching the ground at this point. Then you also have this area again out towards 131 that is moving east pretty slowly, and again, it's starting to struggle in some locations. I think if right now we're seeing the best case of seeing some rain is maybe these cells just south of Big Rapids and around Sand Lake as they move east. They may reach areas of Isabella County down to the south, but again, I think it's a pretty small chance.
Yes, hopefully that we can keep it mainly dry because, as I had mentioned, it's wonderful. The temperatures are in the lower 70s, so it's absolutely comfortable to be outside. T-shirt weather finally back after we were kind of wearing our hoodies there for the last couple of weeks. So we want to keep it dry, especially for folks. Maybe they're working on getting some of those to-do lists done.
Yeah.
We've already talked about some winter preps. I know yesterday in our 4 o'clock we talked about prepping your car for winter. So I know it seems kind of early, but it's easier to do it when it's warm outside.
I was going to say, you got about a week, maybe 2 weeks here to prep anything. I know boats, pulling them out of the water, prepping them for winter. Campers, RVs, start prepping those for the winter. You'll have pretty nice weather the next couple of weeks to get those chores done.
Yeah, first alert meteorologist Matthew Munger, he was talking about this weekend, he spent time getting his snowmobile ready. So whether you're prepping the house and kind of maybe winterizing some of your summer toys, maybe some of those winter toys have to get out of the shed and kind of get those ready for the season. I know he said he still has more work to do on his snowmobile, so I bet he's going to be thrilled when we finally have something frozen in the forecast.
He's one of those people that likes the snow, so he's hoping for an early snow like tomorrow.
Yes.
Luckily, we're not getting that.
He's already talking about it, but thankfully we don't have any in the forecast, so I'm happy.
I was going to say, if we get snow, you can go yell at him, I think.
Yes, yeah, we'll have to blame Matthew on that part of the forecast, but thankfully no snow here coming our way. As far as the air quality, really smoke, different kind of S word coming through the forecast, but happy to see that sensor in Saginaw just kind of bumping back, so we're very close to that good moderate, that 50 mark on the index, so happy to see that a lot of us here in the lower peninsula are sitting in the green and the good.
Yeah, and hopefully we can continue to sit like that. Obviously there's some smoke chances. We'll talk about a future smoke here in just a little bit, but quickly looking at temperatures right now, most of us are in those mid-70s. You have 75 in Gladwin, 77 in Clare. A few areas along the shorelines are just holding a little bit cooler right now. Port Hope 65, Caseville 67. So if you live in those shoreline cities, I think you're pretty used to it being just a little bit colder usually there. Then as you move south, still in those mid, even some upper 70s. Lapeer at 77, Flint at 76. In terms of winds, they have stayed calm today. I know last week we got breezy at times. Friday was pretty windy across the region. Luckily, it looks like that's not going to be the case for the next couple of days. I'm not going to count out a breeze here or there, wind gust up to 15 miles per hour possible, especially in the shoreline cities. But for the most part, we're looking to stay calm. And when we look at our wind gust trend through the rest of our afternoon into tonight, at most up to 10 miles per hour, I think the biggest thing is our sort of directional change through about the start of the evening through the night. We'll start to see more of an east wind, but then right back to a north wind by tomorrow morning.
Yeah, the winds have been fairly light, and with that we can kind of have that wind direction switch pretty quickly because we just aren't as organized when we talk about the wind. And thankfully we really don't see strong winds even looking towards the weekend. So it's going to be quite comfortable. That's why I've been saying get outside and enjoy it, because I know these beautiful days are numbered. I know even Colette and I were talking, we wanted to be out on the patio last night. So like I said, take advantage.
Yeah, take advantage. Now, quickly, we have a few things sort of outside of weather, connected to weather we wanted to talk about. I think the first thing we'll talk about here is ISS spotting. You're going to have a chance tonight. You may have a chance the next couple of days.
Yeah, so the first one is coming in tonight. We're hoping to kind of get some of these clouds to clear out. That is still kind of in the trend for the forecast, is to see a chance for those clouds to clear up. So the International Space Station is going to be flying over at around 9:45 p.m. It will be visible for 4 minutes, so it's not the longest of viewing, but it is still going to be there. So you should be able to get a good eye on it. You will want to start looking in the west-southwest. So it's going to be coming in from that direction, and it's going to go to the north. So you can kind of think when you're thinking of that cardinal compass direction that you maybe aren't going to have a full sweep, and we're not. That's why we're only going to be seeing it visible for 4 minutes. But actually, let me pull up the data for tomorrow, because it's also going to be visible tomorrow at about 8:56 p.m. So with the sunset being closer towards about 7:50, 7:55 now, we'll actually be an hour after the sunset. The space station should fly over. So again, 8:56 p.m. for tomorrow night, and it will be visible for 6 minutes. So we'll have a little more time with that one. It'll come from the southwest direction and land in the east-northeast. We'll have this graphic updated once it gets closer, but we got to get through tonight yet. But I'm hoping here both nights we can have clearer skies so we can at least get a good look at that coming through. So hopefully the cloud cover will be a little bit more cooperative for us rather than what it's being here this afternoon.
Yeah, and definitely, and obviously another good view. We also had some video that you found of Hurricane Kiko out there in Hawaii. Was very close to the islands of Hawaii, if not making impact on those islands. So
yeah, so the hurricane didn't make a direct hit into Hawaii, but it did just stay off towards the north. So we actually still have some remnants there. You can see that it is still kind of just hovering around. So it is just a post-tropical cyclone at this point. So we are still seeing some returns on satellite of a cluster of cloud cover, but it's not really organized. We don't really have the winds that are creating it to be either a depression, storm, or hurricane based off of those wind speeds. But Hawaii, they still saw some impacts there. This is a look at some of the waves that they had. So even though it didn't make direct contact, you're going to see that we had quite a few people who were maybe saying cowabunga and surfing. I'm not a surfer myself, so I don't know what would be good. But of course, as you saw in the video there, that they also had concerns of rip currents. So wanting to be safe for folks who were there, but looks like the kids having a great day.
A lot more talented than I am when it comes to something like that.
Yeah, we don't go surfing here on the Great Lakes all too much. I know you can do it. I've seen people do it on Superior,
I know some people do.
Yeah, so hopefully folks in Hawaii were able to really kind of enjoy the weather that we had. So looks beautiful there. So even though they're still kind of seeing some impacts on the water side of it, it's still looking pretty decent outside there.
And I did want to highlight something too, if we can, because we've sort of had a quiet pattern in the Atlantic, if we can get there, and we continue to see that pretty quiet pattern here over the next couple of days. So if you have family down in Florida, even on the East Coast, luckily they'll stay at least quiet, hopefully, for the next week. Obviously, beyond that, we still have some question marks that we'll have to keep an eye on, just because we're starting to get really into that peak right now for the hurricanes. It's really been out there in the Pacific that I think they've had sort of this active streak here over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, the Eastern Pacific has definitely been busier compared to what the Atlantic season has been. For folks who are maybe going to Florida for a vacation, we do still have some rain chances here through the week, because it's like it's trying to get organized, but nothing can actually get going. So thankfully, nothing is expected within the next 2 days for development coming in through the Atlantic sector of the Hurricane Center data. So, which we can have sometimes it be a little bit quiet during the peak of what we would anticipate, but we are going to find that it's just quiet, and I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think most people down there they're fine with that quiet streak that they've had here over the last couple of weeks, and hopefully continuing as we get into the rest of hurricane season. But we're going to take a quick break here. Once we come back, we're going to be looking at wildfire smoke. We're going to be looking at those rain chances that we have maybe for today, but mostly into our weekend, and just a lot more on your local weather.
And welcome back. So we are talking about still some of that wildfire smoke hanging around, which kind of is also a little bit bothersome when we have those, what it feels like allergies going on, because you can have those dust particles. So if you have maybe noticed that your nose is maybe just not 100%, it may not necessarily be the smoke, because we're not seeing that at the ground level. It may actually be some allergies that you're working with here in the season. So I saw that ragweed is a little bit higher, and that's a pretty common allergen. Of course, this kind of peaks here late summer going into fall. So as we're transitioning, so if you maybe noticed on some of these cooler days that your nose is maybe a little bit stuffy, maybe you've had some sinus pressure, maybe folks who have asthma have maybe noticed some troubles here lately. Ragweed is in the moderate, and it's kind of been hanging there here for the last couple of days. So if it is kind of starting to add up, don't be surprised if maybe that stuffy nose or maybe some of that sinus pressure might be coming from some seasonal.
We sort of have a recipe right now of not so great things for your nose. We have the drier air, we have some wildfire smoke, we have obviously pollen and allergies. So if you're someone that's sensitive to any of that, you're probably feeling it here over the last week or so, and should maybe continue just to keep an eye on it maybe over the next really month or so.
Right, and a big help is typically to run air conditioning in your home, so kind of keep the windows closed and run the air to kind of purify it. But it hasn't really been all that warm to be running the air conditioning
last
the
week
last
you didn't
2
need the
weeks.
AC. Even this week, I think most people will be able to open your windows, and you really don't need the AC on. I know I haven't turned mine on in at least 2-3 weeks, so nice on the electric bill, maybe not so nice on the nose.
Exactly. I know a lot of folks have been saying, I haven't turned my air on, I turned it off, and maybe actually some of these cooler nights people might have turned the furnace on. I feel like we're getting to that point where everybody's going and saying, I'm trying to hold out on turning the furnace on, so we're kind of getting to that season here.
I was going to say that there's some areas up north, probably Sunday night, where we were getting the lower 30s, even some 20s possible. You probably had to turn some heat on.
Yeah, at that point you kind of got to break down and hit the furnace.
Well, another thing again we've been talking about is that wildfire smoke. Now, this is vertical, so it doesn't appear that much of this smoke is actually going to reach the surface, but it's going to be enough aloft that you're going to notice some haziness, especially as we have clear skies in some areas. So you're not going to get that probably blue sky. You're probably going to get that sort of milky sky, usually what I call it. And I think the next thing is going to be just...
This is kind of that milky sky.
I would say that milky sky out there.
Going back to Duluth.
Yeah, going to Duluth. The prime example, because you can see they've had it a little bit heavier there in areas like Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakotas. I know it's been bad, as obviously I have friends out there. They've been alerted to it since I think Sunday. So continuing to battle that sort of fight versus smoke. Luckily, we look long term, at least for the next couple of days. It looks like we start to clear out for Thursday into Friday. I think our next sort of area we'll have to keep an eye on is out here in Minnesota. This area, how well does it reach, or how well does it travel? Because we've noticed a trend here over the last couple of weeks with smoke that they'll have it pretty bad in Minnesota, North and South Dakota. But as it starts to get over Wisconsin and into Michigan, it starts to really fall out of the air and we clear off. So I think for now, we still need some more model runs. I think that may end up being the trend as it starts to just weaken and weaken as it gets closer and closer to Michigan. But I'm not going to count out definitely seeing some moderate ratings as we head into the weekend. Again, we also have some rain chances that will help sort of lower that chance of smoke as we head into the weekend. So we'll see how things develop, but definitely something we'll have to keep updated here over the next couple of days.
And even going into the weekend, we are picking up on a signal that the weather pattern slows down. So considering if we get stuck under high pressure, low pressure, that can easily change how that smoke evolves in the column. So you had mentioned we're looking at vertical data. That means that we're just looking at data that's higher up rather than at the ground level. So we're kind of taking that column of air and seeing how much smoke that we have in it. So when we say that we're looking at the vertical, that's what it means. We're just kind of looking a little bit higher up in the atmosphere. So thankfully, though, none of this is really kind of making it to the ground. As we had talked, we're not really seeing air quality impacts locally.
Yeah, at most moderate, and that's even back and forth. Like I said, we're really close today and continues sort of flip-flopping in between good and moderate.
And that was very similar to yesterday. We really haven't noticed too many differences from yesterday to today. So if you were outside enjoying the nice weather then, plan on it being very similar today as far as air quality is concerned.
So let's now take a look at temperatures for the next couple of nights and days. We'll start off for our lows tonight, and definitely warmer than what we saw earlier in the week. Obviously, Monday morning we had lower 30s. Tonight into tomorrow morning, it's going to be mid to lower 50s, and then a few areas do want to sit in the upper 40s. You have Holton Lake and West Branch both at 48. You have Bay City at 55, Saginaw at 53, and Flint at 50. So this is a trend we could see over the next couple of days, is those 50s as we continue to see nicer temperatures as we get into our highs for Thursday. It's right back into those 70s, and then we're also going to start to see some more 80s. Really that 127 corridor down to maybe the 69 corridor in the lower 80s. Mount Pleasant at 81, Owasso at 80. Flint's going to be very close. If you get some sunshine tomorrow, you could easily get up to that 80, 81 degree mark.
Right,
Lapeer, yeah, it's going to be very much flirting with the 80s for our Thursday. Now, in terms of winds, again, we're not seeing much. You could catch a wind gust up to 15 miles per hour. It's just what we're seeing. But most areas at most 5 to 10 here over the next couple of days. I think tomorrow afternoon could pick up a little bit through about 4 to 5 p.m. That's still only about 15 miles per hour, so definitely not the strongest winds we've seen, especially over the last week or so.
Considering even Friday, that was quite blustery. So for folks who were at high school football games, I'm sure they're happy to see that we're not really forecasting strong winds here through the rest of the week. So even high school football looking pretty good for Friday night. Yeah,
and then as we speak about our highs for Friday, looks to be a pretty nice day. You're going to be having temperatures mid to lower 80s.
Yeah, a warm one. I was actually, during the newscast at noon, I was showing kind of a preview of our Friday Night Lights forecast. It's the warmest one we've had all season.
Week 3.
And typically during the season when we put the forecast together, the numbers continue to drop week after week after week. We're actually going the other direction now since we have some warmer weather coming in. So for fans who really like seeing the warmer air, you're going to be thrilled with this Friday's forecast. And we will have those coming up. We'll actually get our games tomorrow. We'll know where our sports team is going to be going. So make sure you tune in here to the desk at 2 o'clock on Friday and also on the First Alert Weather app and at WNEM.com. We make sure to put all those forecasts out on all of our platforms. So if you're looking for your matchup, you know where to find it.
Yeah, definitely. And again, nice day. I think we had 60s 2 weeks ago, 60s last week. We finally get a game day in the 80s, and then obviously some 70s. So a nice Friday for Friday Night Lights. Now, hour by hour, there really isn't much to see. Even today, that rain chance that we're seeing out west isn't getting picked up. Now, could it be a thing where it's so light the models are maybe struggling with it a little bit? It's always a possibility. We'd like to think. So I'm not going to count out some light rain towards 127, but I think it's a pretty small chance at this point.
Yeah, that rain that we were talking about at the top of the hour, hopefully, again, that does evaporate. It is going to be running into some drier air, so we'll see how well that holds together.
And then really just through the rest of the night, skies will start to clear. We'll be clear for Thursday morning into Thursday afternoon. It's more of the same with sunshine. Not going to count out some of those sort of popcorn clouds in the afternoon. And then into Friday, it's more of the same. There is, right now, models are starting to pick up a fog chance for Friday morning. We'll look at that here in a second. But that may be something just to keep an eye on if you have travel plans, heading off to school, just whatever you're going to be doing. You may have to take it a few extra minutes on the road, but the rest of Friday afternoon, you look to stay dry. Then long-term wise, there really isn't much until Saturday. We get to Saturday morning into the afternoon. This is where some of those long-term models have started to pick up a rain chance. I don't think it's anything that's going to go ruin your weekend, but I think it's going to be enough. You definitely notice it Saturday, and I know we have a lot of sort of sports going on. Michigan State's in town. Central's traveling down to Ann Arbor for this weekend. So those are just some of the bigger games. I'm not quite sure where Western and Eastern, some of the other teams are at, but a lot of home games this week. So hopefully that rain stays away. Still some time.
Down, I'm hoping that it comes in pieces.
Yes.
It's a little scattered, so it's not going to be an all-day rain. I'm hoping. We are watching still on the timing and the coverage. So if you do maybe have some tailgate plans, maybe you just have a party, a get-together, we are going to have some updates and some more fine-tuning on that Saturday forecast. It's been a little bit uncertain just because the weather pattern is breaking down as we go into the weekend, and kind of Saturday is kind of the cause for that. So we are going to be finding some changes and some fine-tuning to the Saturday forecast. So make sure you stay updated. We have that QR code here for the app, so make sure that you have that to get those updates on the weekend. Yeah,
definitely. And again, there is that fog chance. I just pulled up our visibility map for Friday morning. It actually looks like it's going to be a pretty early start for fog, right around midnight, well, at least with this model, suggesting we can start to see that development. And then through the morning up till 5, 6 a.m., seeing some pretty dense fog. So just getting some moisture in the atmosphere, just getting our temperatures just right to see that
fog develop. We do
develop.
anticipate the clear skies, too. So it looks like we are going to kind of be checking a lot of boxes for this. So we will be watching, of course. We're first alerting you here at the desk to make sure to give yourself a few extra minutes on Friday morning. Yeah,
and obviously still sometimes things could change. If we can just get one of those check marks away, maybe we don't see it as dense. But for now, yeah, first alerting you to that fog chance we have for Friday morning, because I know, again, it's starting to get to the weekend. People are traveling, school's going on, so just be alert for that. Now, before we get to the 7-day, I did want to look at a temperature outlook. Obviously, this is for next week, so the 15th through the 19th, Wednesday, usually one of the days that they get to for the full week of next week. And I think it's a good sign to see above normal temperatures for not only us, but the chance for lots of the country. We see that with some warmer air, sort of just the setup in the atmosphere wanting to produce that warm up for next week. Again, our average for this time of year right around 75, 76. So that's probably what we'll be sitting, is close to that.
Yeah, and just a reminder that it does drop pretty quickly here in September. So even though right now we're seeing that average high around 75, 76 degrees, by the time we get even 4 or 5 more days kind of checked off the calendar here, our normal high could be a little bit closer towards 73, getting towards 72. So above average would be 75, 76 degrees. So just kind of something to keep in mind is that the average is falling, and it is falling very quickly here through September.
I think we lose about 10 degrees, 11 degrees average for the month. I think we start at 76 and end at 66. So yeah, quickly lose that temperature.
We're also losing a lot of daylight
That's
too.
True.
We're losing about almost 2, if not 3 minutes of daylight at this point. So that also doesn't help our temperatures either.
And then precipitation outlook, for us at least, right now, I think the chances are going to be below average. We'll see how that sets up. These will obviously get updated throughout the week to see how we play out. It does look like next week, though, wants to try to set up a little bit drier, which isn't the best thing maybe for us. Obviously, if you're going to be outdoors, you'll like that, but I know we still have drought across much of the region. That may continue to build because we've been pretty dry here over the last couple weeks.
And for locations that haven't seen frost, if your garden is still going, I would plan on still lugging those watering cans to the garden, because it doesn't look like Mother Nature is going to take her turn to get all those plants watered.
Yeah, definitely not. Well, real quick here, as we get to the end of our stream, we do want to take a look at 7-day forecast, where, again, you have those 70s for today, tomorrow. There will be 80s tomorrow, though. We're not going to count that out. More widespread 80s on Friday. Then, again, we head to the weekend into next week. It's just more of those 70s wanting to just hang around. I'm also not going to count out some 80s on Saturday. I think rain will influence how warm we get. I think we saw this last weekend where Saturday, some areas saw some more rain. They just kept them a little bit cooler than anticipated. I think we could have that scenario play out once again this weekend. Yes,
I definitely think that is going to be possible. We've actually kind of been debating between 79, 80 when we've been putting the forecast together. So it's going to be a close call on Saturday. But the difference really between 79 and 80, it's only a degree. It's still going to be feeling pretty good outside. It's the rain that's going to be troublesome for us, but happy to see, even as we go into next week, the new calendar week, that we dry back out again. As we had mentioned, the forecast looks to bring us more high pressure, so that means more sunshine, but at least the temperatures hold mid to upper 70s. Though the 80s aren't there, it's still going to be a nice September-like forecast going into next week.
Yeah, so with that, we don't have any questions over in our chat. I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. As always, you can catch us at 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. We'll also have weekend streams on Saturday at 6 p.m. You can watch over at WNEM.com/livestreams. With football sort of taking over, we want to try to get you the news, the weather, and that's one of the ways we can do it is over on our website. You can catch us on Roku and Apple TV. There's just a bunch of ways you can watch our content here coming out of WNEM.
And you can also watch that 6 p.m. Saturday live stream on the TV5 News app. So if you really want to check in kind of quick, get some headlines, get the forecast, but you're also away from your television, as long as you have your cell phone, you can connect with TV5. So there's plenty of ways to do that. Plus tomorrow, we're going to be right back here at our desk at 2 o'clock, which of course we kind of mentioned a lot of those, but also Android and Apple TV. You can stream there. So there's plenty of ways to connect, as you mentioned.
Plenty of ways. And like always, if there's severe weather or there's active weather pattern, we're always going to be here live, keeping you up to date with that local weather. And hopefully we can stay quiet and we won't have as much of this, but keep you still up to date.
Yeah, the forecast is nice. We all just want to enjoy it. And so hopefully you take the advantage to get outside and enjoy the nice weather, or maybe work on some of that to-do list to get you prepped and ready for the fall and winter seasons. But we will let you go for the afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
Thank you for joining us. Today's stream has been brought to you by Lockhart Roofing.